welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure. If you don't say we have some more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggle with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us here. This is Global Television and you're watching Tuesday edition of Global Morning. I'm Uyi Agmofogbe. Shortly my colleague Queen Agaba, who's around, will join us just to put the show on the road full throttle for you. Feels great being back on the program after a brief hiatus. Thank you everyone for continuing to watch Global Morning as well as all other programs broadcast here on Global Television. As always, we'll take out the next almost 3 hours to look at some of the big developments across the country and some of them beyond our shores for you, just to give you some profound insights and bring you in-depth analysis of some of these issues. Politically speaking, Nigeria is experiencing some significant evolution, whether at the national or sub-national level. As it stands today, one of the biggest conversations in this country, we must agree, is the development somewhere in the south part of the country, which is in Rivers State. The last couple of weeks have particularly been very intense in that part of the country for apparent reasons. Now, for starters, for what, for the most part, looked like some sort of feud between a former governor of that state, who is now Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and the governor of the state, Siminalayi Fubara, has now snowballed into what has led to a state of emergency being declared in that state. Of course, it appears to be one of the most sensitive discussions to have right now, because there are those who are quick to turn to Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which clearly states what is required to declare a state of emergency in any part of the country. Starting from the days of former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo into the time of former President Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, we've seen state of emergency being announced or declared across different parts of this country, whether it was in Ekiti State at the time or sometime later in Plateau State. But there has been one very common factor that has been the basis of concern for many Nigerians, even within the political class. Let's not mention civil society groups. That is the necessity or otherwise. In fact, they say whether or not the president has the power to remove an elected executive. And in the case of Rivers State, they say the president overreached himself by not only removing a democratically elected governor, but also removing all the elected members of the State House of Assembly in the state. Of course, let's not forget that even the deputy governor as well was removed. So that's where we are right now. Of course, for those who have followed this story the last 2 weeks thereabout, we understand that the state has a sole administrator as of today. Now, there have been questions asked about, hold on a second, where did this idea of sole administrator come from, especially when it has to be a former military person? All right, if you look at the case of Ekiti, when you had former governor Ayodele Fayose there under former president Olusegun Obasanjo, it was an ex-military man that was brought in. You turn to the middle belts in the state of Plateau, it was also a former military man that was brought in there, and now another former military man has been brought in to serve as sole administrator in Rivers State, and we are told that, amongst other things, this is for an initial period of 6 months. Now the question is that not suggestive that should the mandates or terms of reference for this sole administrator not be achieved within a 6-month cycle, what's the chance that there won't be an extension? Because there has also been the question of whether or not there is the possibility of Mr. Fubara, his deputy, and all other persons who have been removed from office, particularly members of the State House of Assembly, be reinstated at some point in time. Well, maybe only time too will tell. And then you turn to Kogi State, there's also some unique, if you like, peculiar development unfolding in that part of the country right now. There have been concerns around the recall efforts being made to ensure that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is called back home, for want of better words. Of course, that recall process has been as, if you like, disruptive as it is also for many Nigerians novel, because since 1999, I mean, throughout this entire Fourth Republic so far, no senator, no House of Representatives member has been successfully recalled. Now, if you go back memory lane, you realize that from the same Kogi, but this time not from Kogi Central, like you have with Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan, but from Kogi West, when you had Dino Melaye as the senator there were also efforts to recall him, all right, under then the leadership of former Governor Yahaya Bello in the state. That also fell through the cracks. But the question is, what is different between that instance some years ago and what is currently in front of us today? We have somebody who will give us some very profound insights into what exactly is happening, whether you look at it from the standpoint of the All Progressives Congress, the ruling party, both at the national level and in Kogi State, or you want to look at it from the standpoint of the everyday Nigerian. Several things to talk about on the show, trust me, but we will take a quick break at this point. When we return, we'll talk a little more, and then it will be time to bring you big headlines from across our national dailies. To stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
We appreciate you staying with us, everyone. Time now to turn to the papers for you. And Queen Agaba, like I mentioned at the top of the show this morning, will join in right in the middle. In the meantime, let's begin with the blueprint for you this morning. Quite a number of headlines on the front page of it. All right, at the very top above the nameplates, it says, with a kicker, 2015 failed coup, Burkina Faso junta leader pardons 21 soldiers. All right, and then we come just beneath the nameplate of the blueprint with a picture of Osun State's governor, Ademola Adeleke. It says, Adeleke to Osun monarchs, ensure peace or face dethronement. Of course, we've seen governors sound this same kind of tune time and again, because there are those of them who say that they have substantial intelligence reports telling them that there are traditional rulers at different levels across their various states who are either in coalition with criminal elements or are sort of just conniving with them. all right, to varying extents. And as such, they are now holding these community leaders, traditional leaders, accountable to say, look, I may be the governor, but then the issue of security of lives and property is a collective responsibility. Therefore, we all must be on board to ensure that we keep our state secure altogether. So, again, Governor Adeleke is one of those many governors who have decided to toe this path right now. Okay. World Cup qualifier, I got some sport for you with a kicker. World Cup qualifier. I love masa, jollof rice. That's Coach Chill there talking. All right, but well, while food is great, we look forward to seeing him do exploits with our boys, the Super Eagles, and now until the end of his contract with the NFF. Okay, but then we have the star headline for you this morning, still on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper, and it reads: Kebbi Gombe Katsina top as meningitis cases spread, 74 killed. We have two riders with the headline. 807 case fatality rates reported across 22 states. NCDC experts alarmed, seek mass vaccination. Yes, that same energy that we brought in 2014 in the days of Ebola, that same passion, that same expertise, that volume of resources that we deployed to fight off COVID-19 in 2020 into 2021 must also be brought to bear now in terms of our fight against meningitis. We may say, well, it's just across a few states, but then the earlier we get to tackle these at the very roots, the better for us all as a country. But again, we must doff our hats for health workers across board, top to bottom, all right, who have decided to go all the way, I mean the whole hog, to ensure that every time there's an outbreak such as this, whether it's Lassa fever, cholera, or even measles, for example, they have never for once let the ball drop, and we appreciate them, and we say that we can only hope they continue to fire down, as they say, this path. All right. Then on the left side of the front page of the Blueprint newspaper this morning, amid environmental concerns, NATI plans review of $6.03 billion divestments by IOC. That's over $6 billion of divestments by international oil companies. All right. Then, if you're looking at the front page of the paper, I mean, the Blueprint this morning, you see a picture of Minister of Interior there, Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, shaking hands with UK Home Secretary Viet Cooper at the Border Security Summit in Lancaster House in London. That actually happened just yesterday. Border security is no element that any serious country would joke about. Apparently, that's a big conversation Dr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo is pushing now on behalf of Nigeria and indeed, by extension, West Africa sub-region. All right, Tom Polo Hoscom endorsed Tinubu for re-election in 2027. This story broke yesterday, and there are those who are not saying, I mean, did we expect otherwise? All right, but that headline is accompanied by one writer here that says, lists president's achievements, urge intervention in Rivers crisis. All right, Okpebholo visits Kano over 16 slain northerners, vows justice. Nigeria's economy expands to 22.61 trillion naira, quarter 4 2024. That was the last quarter of last year. But don't forget that the Bola Tinubu administration says the ultimate goal is a $1 trillion economy. Experts have said this is not only possible, but I've also gone ahead to recommend specifics that must be pursued vigorously if that goal must be accomplished. So everybody must get to put in the work. Okay. Eid al-Fitr, 10 prison inmates regain freedom in Jigawa State. And lastly, from the Blueprint newspaper this morning, just at the foot of the front page, troops arrest 39 oil thieves, dismantle 18 bunkering sites. in Niger Delta. We have a few more papers to go on the program this morning, but we're taking a quick break. When we return, Queen Agaba and I will take a look at the other papers for you. Do stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, so let's push the paper review a bit further for you. But first, Queen Agaba is not only in the building, but she's on the show this morning. Queen, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I was going to say, first of all, Eid Mubarak to you.
Yeah, happy Eid Mubarak. And good to see you. I've not seen you in 2 weeks on the show.
Yeah.
I've been on the show with you for 2 weeks.
Okay, let's just say you owe me a drink after the show. But in the meantime, it feels great being here with you as well, because they say 2 good heads are better than one, and this Tuesday is a special one. All right, so let's go back to the papers, and Queen will just take it up from here.
Okay, our next point of call is the Daily Independent newspaper, and we have quite a number of stories. First, we have the big story, says Rivers will emerge stronger from political crisis, Fubara assures. And then we have Kogi government bans rally, public gatherings over security threat. And then we also have Adeleke threatens to dethrone traditional rulers over communal clashes. Edo killings, Okpebolo vows justice for victims. Yusuf wants those arrested paraded. Vigilante groups pose risk if unregulated. XCP says. Then we have NSIA, net assets rise to 96% to 4.35 trillion naira in 1 year. President Tinubu extends tenure of immigration CG Nanda. And passenger demand grows 6.7% in Africa as global tariff increased by 26%. 2027, Harish thought of retaining presidency. CP PDP tells Tinubu. And then we have NAFDAC clarifies reopening of Onitsha medicine market. These are the stories we have on the front page of the Daily Independent. And major highlights on these major issues from these papers, from the headlines, is security.
Right.
Security threats. We see in Kogi State how rallies and public gatherings are being banned as a result of security threats. And then Okpebholo vowing justice for the victims of killings in Edo State. Though these killings were done by vigilante officials. And, you know, just majorly security popping up on the front pages of our papers. I saw yesterday where somebody was talking about Abuja again, here in the central area. A particular bridge, I think the bridge leading to Churchgate, underneath that bridge.
Right.
And the comments were alarming. And I'm a fan of the comment section because I think that's where the real tea, the real, you know,
the real issues are raised.
Yes, are raised. Beyond the topic raised, in the comment section, people are sharing personal experiences. And, you know, there's depth in the conversation. So people were sharing their experiences, how they were robbed by that particular bridge. For years, you know, that bridge has been known as a danger zone, that particular place. And there are many other places like that in the central area where people, you know, talk about the risks that are involved in, you know, plying that, you know, route and all of that. And then somebody made a comment that I think is hilarious, but on a second thought, it is disturbing. The person says, even the police cannot, you know, go to that bridge because of security reasons.
Okay, so the police may even feel insecure too.
Yes, because of, you know, how dangerous that road is. But if we know that this bridge or this part of Abuja has become a danger zone, why don't we, the question raised was, why don't we mount checkpoints around these areas that are there? And then the response to that question was, even the security cannot mount checkpoints because of security reasons. So it's funny.
Quite an irony.
It sounds, yeah, but it's disturbing, you know, how, what are the issues? Would it be that, why would our policemen be scared or not want to, you know, be on roads like that? The big reasons that will come to my mind would be, first of all, it's either they're inequipped. There's no guarantee that, you know, lack of equipment. They don't have the tools, they don't have the machineries, they don't have, you know, because there's something that happens when you are well equipped. There's confidence, you know, that you can tackle, you know, these insecurities. So what are the kind of guns our securities are using, and, you know, what are the tactics that they are using? So one of the reasons would be this, and that's why. And another thought is that it's negligent, that the lives and, you know, properties of Nigerians are not valued or important. Because if a particular road has been marked for, you know, being a danger zone and being a terror to Nigerians,
right,
I mean, something should have been done about it.
It's quite interesting. Yes, part of it's hilarious, but in the final analysis, you realize that these are issues of life and death you're talking about, right? Now, you mentioned that bridge around the Churchgate area. That's between the ICPC and the Churchgate, right? I'm a bit familiar with that route. And I do realize that actually, I mean, just yesterday morning, I was coming to work. This was right in front of me, 6:33 a.m. That is 6:33 in the morning, 27 to 7, right in front of me. I was probably about 3 poles away from these criminal elements. There were 3 young men, one riding the bike and 2 behind him. Next thing I know is they pull up in front of a man. I thought maybe they were dealing with somebody they knew, maybe they were exchanging pleasantries and trying to just, you know, banter a little, not knowing that what was unfolding in my face was a robbery. Yes, it was a robbery attack. And the next thing I know is the guy is dumbfounded. He spreads out his hands. He's not able to say a word. And the bike rides away right in front of him. The second guy on the bike is struggling to join because he was one of the 2 young men that got off the bike to rob him. And only for him to say the whole time, what I just saw happen was that they had brandished knives, 2 of the guys, because there were 3. One was riding, 2 were to pull off the robbery attack. All right, that they had brandished knives in front of him to threaten him. They took his phone, right? That he was coming from Maraba, he was on that same bridge as though he was heading towards the Lugbe axis, all right, that kind of thing. But this was right at that Churchgate, the same Churchgate traffic. And one of the young men around was asking, I mean, it was daylight. Like I said, this was 27 minutes to 7 in the morning, right? So one of the young men was asking him, why didn't you shout? And the guy said, what could I have done? I mean, I was taken unawares. I didn't know what to say. And I've never experienced something like this before. And next thing you know, they had turned as though they were heading towards secretariats. And that was the end of the story. So you don't have the slightest idea how many persons have to deal with this every day in this Abuja and everywhere else across this country. And for me, in addition to the monies you lose, the people's lives that are at stake, because some people may survive it, others don't survive it. I mean, we have tales of even our own colleagues in-house here who had close to death experiences, all right? But let's also look at the embarrassment, because for once, Queen, this is the FCT we're talking about, the nation's capital. What message does it send? What impression does it leave? Now we're talking about the police, whether they are equipped or ill-equipped. Do you also have the manpower? Because whether you like it or not, there's a police to citizen ratio. How many policemen do you have securing, quote and unquote, a certain number of Nigerians is important. Is it one policeman to 1,000 Nigerians? Is it one policeman to 1 million Nigerians? Because one time we were told that the ratio should be one policeman to 600 Nigerians, which is fair enough, give or take. But the question is, what is the ratio as of today? When former President Goodluck Jonathan was in office, he paid an unscheduled visit to the police academy, the police college, we'll call it, in Ikeja. Now, that visit was prompted by a documentary that had been aired on national television in this country sometime in 2012, right? And when he had finished his on-the-spot assessment, as they call it, and he was coming out of the college, of course, he spoke with journalists. One of the things he raised then was the manpower issue. I don't want to go into the other embarrassing aspects of what he said, but he talked about the manpower issue. At that time, we were told that roughly the number was about 300,000 policemen. But also ask yourself, what was the population of Nigerians at that time? I leave the rest for my opponents to answer.
Interesting and, quite disturbing. But I hope that some things will be done about it. Like you mentioned, on a daily basis, Nigerians are robbed. Right. And then what is the fate of other Nigerians, if the FCT can be, other states in particular, if the FCT can be this insecure, where people are robbed on a daily basis on their way from work, on their way to work, and all of that. We hope that these issues are looked into. Well, these are the stories we have on the front page of the Daily Independent. The Vanguard will be our next point of call.
All right, let's bring you those headlines real quick, everyone. We'll begin with the star headline for you from the Vanguard newspaper. Uromi is your kicker. Residents desert towns over fears of reprisals, arrests. Yesterday, we saw a video of women who were protesting what they alleged to be reprisal. But let's believe that won't happen. Let's trust that security agents will swing into action very proactively and nip this in the bud so a bad situation doesn't become worse. But let's see the riders we have for you, more than half a dozen of them. Says here, a resident explains what led to mob action. Panic in Ekboma market over alarm of attack. Governor hits the road, meet Kano governor, deputy senate president. Says justice will prevail for victims. That's Governor Okpebholo. Aggrieved Kano youths, women carry placards, demands speedy justice for victims. Governor meets Deputy Senate President Barau, says 14 suspects will be taken to Abuja for further interrogation. We will ensure perpetrators are brought to book, Deputy Senate President. ACF calls for independent judicial panel to investigate killings. And then farmers scared of going to farms in Edo. You have that on page 12. You see, Queen, when you look at this issue, you would have thought, okay, first off, this damage has been done. What we have to do is to manage it, but ultimately ensure that those who are found culpable are brought to book. I mean, justice prevails for everyone, particularly those who have taken the hits in light of these. But now the fear is now very palpable around the possibility of reprisals.
And that farmers, it's always disturbing and avoiding. When after every attack, people fear these reprisals, and they fear, going back to farm, going back to their activities, going back to their source of livelihood. Now it's Edo State, and over the years it's been Benue State, because we have a large amount of farmers in Benue State. And,
the food basket of the nation.
I wonder if we can see pride ourselves as that now that farmers have been forced to withdraw, most farmers, because of the rising cases of insecurities and headers clashes. But again, I say that when we do things, when an incident happens, take for instance our dilapidated correctional facilities, the recent prison break that we had, and we had one the previous year before this one now. I made mention of when there's an occurrence like this, what are we doing? What are we putting, what structures are we putting in place? Are we going back to the drawing board to ensure that there is never a reoccurrence? Are we looking at what led, the situations and circumstances that led to these incidences? Or we're just going to do damage control, pay for damages, and move on? Certainly, if we don't go back to the drawing board to look at critically look at what led to these incidences and how can we further prevent it, there's no way there's not going to be a recurrence. There will always be a recurrence, and that is what happened in this recent prison break that just happened. And first of all, it's as a result of negligence, first of all, and secondly, our stations, our correctional facilities, how often, sometimes they are rusted irons, rusted bars. There's so much, there's so much at stake. They are dilapidated. How often do we even, what are we putting in place? How can we, renovate these correctional facilities? How often should we renovate these facilities? Should we ensure that there are new locks? There are, sometimes we just treat these people in correctional facilities like even animals as, well secured to ensure that, because these are wild animals, they are well secured to ensure that they don't, go out and endanger people in the society. Take, for instance, you have a lion. You cannot have a rusted padlock where a lion is, or rusted bars. This lion would definitely, escape. But away from that, this is not to compare humans and animals, but even in animal kingdom, the animals are better protected. But what I'm saying is, let's not have repeated occurrences that makes us look stupid. Now that there are rising cases of insecurity, can we focus all our attention? Most times, we just take our attention off the things that matters and focus on our attentions on trivial things. What did this person say? Who is this person criticizing? They're looking for individuals.
But what are the issues the person is raising?
What are the issues? Why are we leaving the issue? You say the manner in which the person said what the person said. You are tackling the manner, but the main issue, the person is raising that is very disturbing and concerning, we abandon it and we face trivial things. We pursue things that are of no interest to the people, of no value, that don't have long-term standing. Can we sit up and focus on the right thing? Focus on lives and properties of the people that we have been called to serve, and let us leave trivial matters as trivial matters. Before you know it now, there'll be entertainment shows, there'll be programs like, the reality shows that we have, and we'll find government officials sponsoring, these candidates, voting for these people, even making people ambassadors. It just doesn't make sense. Why we have rising cases of people being killed in your state, workers not being paid their salaries, bad roads, dilapidated roads that have been bad for years, that have been causing, harm, making people lose their lives and properties, businesses that are going down in the states, just everything just going wrong, and then we have governors traveling wherever they like, leaving their states, leaving their responsibilities, and moving down to the city, the nation's capital. What I'm soliciting for, it's painful, is that we are sensitive enough to understand the plight of Nigerians that we have been called to serve. Let's focus our attention on the right things. Security of lives and properties is very essential. Security particularly is very essential to the growth of any state or even any nation. So now that we see that farmers are afraid to go to their farms, they're afraid of a reprisal, let us start working on what we can do to ensure that there's never a reoccurrence, and farmers are free
to go about their activities. Sometimes when these farmers cannot farm, they will have no choice. Some people, you wonder why they get into certain activities. It's because they don't have an option. They say if you can't beat them, you join them.
You join them, right?
So you see a lot of people taking the option of, becoming terrorists themselves, stealing from people as well.
I think the plea is very clear, all right? Let's realign our priorities, all right?
Absolutely.
Keep the main thing the main thing. It's interesting, it's been it's been Ramadan this whole season, and you see politicians across board, all of them are saying, let's make it a time of peace, unity, let's strengthen our bond as a nation. All of that makes sense, all of it. 100%. But the question is, when is Easter, it's going to be the same thing. Is this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be Salah again. It's going to be Christmas again. But the question is, how many of these politicians, whether governors or senators or members of state houses of assembly or House of Representatives, actually exemplify these attributes, these values? It's called leadership by example. So it's not about you telling people to do it. Show them that it can be done. Practicalize it. Lead from the front. That's what we're saying. If you are a governor, you are the chief security officer of the state. So all of those narratives around, well, I'm not in charge of the police, I'm not in charge of the military. They just fall through the cracks, because whether you like it or not, when you were being elected, in fact, during the campaign, you told your people that you ensure security of lives and property. At that point, did you not know that you were not going to be in charge of police and military? At what point did you realize that you are not in charge of them? The question is, do you even understand what it means to lead the people? Some of these things we'll see, whether it's the very nasty and condemnable incident in Edo or the barrage of them we've seen in the north, all the way from Benue up north, for example. Most of them rise and fall on failure of leadership. End of story. Absolutely. All right? If we fix leadership, these things will either not happen at all, or we have them at their barest. But because leadership is broken, leadership is dysfunctional, that's where we are today. All right, but let's continue with the review quickly for the next few minutes before it's time for the Global AM News. All right, right end of the front page of the Vanguard this morning. Organized immigration crime, FG seeks global intelligence sharing. FG to shut out Lagos Independence Bridge for 2 months. Yes, we understand this, for maintenance. I was offered 5 billion naira bribe to impeach Fubara. CEO, Chief of Staff here. He too was a factional Speaker of the House of Assembly one time. But, when things like this happen, you find Nigerians asking, at what point did you decide to tell the public? Did you make that disclosure as soon as you were approached? These advances were made, this kind of offer was put in front of you. Well, some people will say better late than never. But you see, accountability is the key. This is not about whose faction you belong to. It's about the people you're supposed to serve. All right, how are you serving them? Is it with sincerity of purpose? Is it with sincerity of the heart? We'll treat people smuggling gangs like terrorists. That's UK Prime Minister. There's been the border security summit that's been going on now in Lancaster, where the stand Dr. Olubunmi Tuju-Ojo, Minister of Interior, is right there on behalf of Nigeria. CP PDP to Tinubu. Forget 2027, Nigerians will reject you. Well, we'll wait till that time to see what Nigerians will say. And then there's a bit of sports here. Arsenal snub Osimhen. Osimhen has been an item since last year. It is today one club making an offer, tomorrow another club making a different offer. But so far we understand he's still with Galatasaray. Let's see what happens. Will he go back to Napoli? Is there that window for him to go back? What club will eventually win this young man who has been considered very valuable? Well, we'll wait to see. But let's see a few more headlines from above the nameplate of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Top right, the very top of it says Petrol, Dangote refinery resumes loading after payment. Sounds like a piece of good news, some kind of relief for consumers of petroleum products. Tension in ports as FG moves to sack terminal operators. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger impose 0.5% levy on goods from Nigeria, other ECOWAS countries. So for those of you who thought it's only President Donald Trump that can impose tariffs on Canada, Mexico, China, and the rest of the world, well, as Americans would say, you have another thing coming. So closer to home here, we have these three countries of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Republic now also imposing 0.5% levy on goods from Nigeria and across other countries from the West Africa sub-region. But let's see how this goes. The leadership of ECOWAS under President Bola Tinubu says that these three countries can still return to the fold if and when they decide to. Whether or not they want to do that is a different kettle of fish altogether, but we understand that they are still essentially a part of the ECOWAS. I mean, at least a part of the West African region. But whether they are officially members of the ECOWAS is a different ball game altogether. But incidentally, this is where we're leaving the papers this morning. We're taking a quick break now, everyone. When we return, it will be time. That's, of course, at the top of the hour for Global AM News. Do stay with us.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning. know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the Global AM News here on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Queen Agaba. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and StarTimes channel 276. You can download the Global TV Nigeria mobile app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. President Bola Tinubu says his administration has removed the Federal Capital Territory from the Treasury Single Account, TSA, to expedite development and enhance resident participation in governance. The president, who received the territory's residents at the presidential villa for Salah homage, led by its minister, Nyesom Wike, explained that the bureaucracy associated with the TSA was hampering infrastructure growth in the capital city and had to be reviewed for impact and progress. Ramsey Enoch Agbo has details.
President Tinubu highlighted that freeing the Federal Capital Territory from Treasury single account restriction has swiftly catalyzed infrastructure improvement, enhanced healthcare services, as well as increased security measures. The president therefore urged more tolerance, broad-mindedness, and patriotism.
All I need to appeal for is the tolerance that got us this far. We had the lessons of Ramadan. We must continue to abide with that. We must continue to share. You must continue to remember those less privileged people, the orphanage, the widows and widowers, the have-nots, believing that we can share both in joy and in time of needs. And we can believe that Nigeria is greater than any one of us, including myself as the president.
The FCT Minister Nyesom Wike pledged his loyalty to the president and pledged to develop the capital city, assuring that the FCT will soon complete many projects.
As we approach the second anniversary of the administration, we're excited about the array of impactful projects that we have lined up for commissioning. These projects designed to improve infrastructure, economic opportunities, and overall quality of life stand as evidence to the administration's commitment to national development.
The Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu, Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris, among others, attended the ceremony. Ramsey Enoch reporting for Global TV News.
As the Eid al-Fitr celebration continues, Muslim faithfuls have gathered together to show their excitement for the celebration. Global Television's correspondent Hosanna Okorafor visited a park in the city of Abuja where the Muslims gathered to mark the day.
The holy month of the Ramadan season is over, and we are in the Eid al-Fitr celebration, which started yesterday, 30th of March 2025. And we're out here in commemoration with our Muslim faithfuls to ask them one or two questions on how they're feeling about the Ramadan. Please come with us.
Muslim faithful have expressed their excitement with friends and family on the Eid al-Fitr celebration, giving thanks to Allah for a successful Ramadan and recounted the impact of the recent economic situation. They, however, stated that the situation has not prevented them from participating in the celebration.
Everything is expensive. We know everything is expensive in the market, but we can't do without food. We have to eat. We must eat.
Among the Muslim faithful were some people of the Christian faith who came along to celebrate with them.
So you rejoice to those that are rejoicing. I've come to rejoice the Muslim faithful. Let me also see how they celebrate and be in the same mood with them so that we'll make this country a better place. It has not been easy. The tough economic situation is biting hard on everybody, every Dick and Harry. But there's an all-knowing God, an all-sufficient God that has made it possible for us to continue to move on.
The sales, we still thank God. But many people, the picnickers that comes in here, they've been complaining about not even the price, they are complaining about no money. They hardly buy things this Salah time. They will just come. But by the time they want to come, they will just come and say, let's just have water. You know, water is life.
By God's grace, every year we are praying for the more higher. And by special grace of God, and I think the way I expected last year was so nice, and this year was so nice too. So I enjoy it.
The public holiday extends till Tuesday, 1st of April. Hosanna Okorafor, reporting for Global TV News.
Governor Hope Uzodinma has called on the Muslim community in Imo State to support government's efforts at promoting peace, unity, and security. The governor made the appeal during a special Salah banquet held at the Government House, Owerri, in celebration of Eid al-Fitr. Our correspondent, Amarachi Ibe, reports.
Speaking at the event, Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma congratulated Muslim faithful on the successful completion of Ramadan and urged them to remain committed to fostering harmony and contributing to the state's development.
To celebrate together, to demonstrate the level of religious harmony in Imo State, to demonstrate brotherhood and the essence of living together, to show tolerance and show love to each other.
He assured the community that his administration is dedicated to fairness and inclusivity and promised to address their concerns. The governor also called on them to collaborate with security agencies in tackling crime.
Help the government to fight crime. Help the government to stop violence. Learn how to tolerate each other. We don't want disunity among the Muslims. We want you to be united. We want you to love yourselves. We want you to work together. We want you to do only those things that the Holy Quran allows.
In response, the chairman of Imo State Council for Islamic Affairs, Bashiru Wakwe, and the Sarikin House of Imo State, Awal Baba Suleiman, commended the governor for his inclusive governance. They also presented him with a portrait as a gesture of appreciation.
So happy because in your administration, you have never left an inch without carrying the Muslims along with you. Your Excellency, on behalf of the Islamic Caliph family and the Muslim Right and the Muslim Council of Imo State, may I present this present to you.
The Salah banquet strengthened the government community ties and reaffirmed the administration's commitment to inclusivity and development.
Through your administration's dedication to security, business-friendly policies, and inclusive governance, you have reaffirmed that Imo State is a land of opportunity for all who reside lawfully within its bounds.
From Government House Owerri, Amarachi Ibe reporting for Global TV News.
In a different development, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, says the sole administrator of Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibom Ibas, retired, is only dismantling all the governance structures put in place by the suspended governor of the state, Siminalayi Fubara. The chairman of PDP in the state, Name Ewo, spoke while reacting to allegations made by former Rivers head of state, Dr. George Nweke, against Fubara, PDP, and Nigeria Labour Congress. PDP also alleged that Nweke has become a tool for Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, to spread false information against Fubara and his team. The People's Democratic Party Governors Forum has enjoined Nigerians, particularly the Muslim Ummah, to reflect on the lessons of tolerance, love and sacrifice learned during the holy month of Ramadan and apply the same in their daily lives for the greater benefit of the nation. This admonition was contained in a statement by the chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, Senator Bala Mohammed, who is also the governor of Bauchi State, on behalf of all members. Signed on his behalf by the Director General of the Forum, Dr. Emmanuel Agbo, in Abuja. The Muslim faithfuls in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, have united in their congregation to recite and offer Eid prayers. This is to commemorate the holy month of Ramadan. Felicity Ndere has details.
Allahu Akbar. It is an Islamic holiday marking the end of Ramadan, the month when Muslims fast daily from dawn to sunset. During the prayers, the Imam urged the congregation to increase their worship to God as well as charity deeds, saying that they need to emulate the Holy Prophet Muhammad.
O you Muslims, I advise you and my humble self to fear Allah the Exalted, because that is the commandment given to both the past and present generations. Indeed, we have enjoyed upon those who were given the scripture before you, and you as well, to fear Almighty Allah. That is to follow the injunctions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Speaking with Global TV News, some worshippers thank Allah for the strength, privilege, and opportunity to be able to fulfill the demands the holy month of Ramadan brings.
So during this Ramadan fasting, it makes all the Muslims come nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we also pray to our country to live in a peace and harmony.
The whole essence of this holy month of Ramadan, they have a lot of secrets. You pray, God will answer. Anything you know in your mind, you can do it. God will answer it. That is the secret and the take about this holy Ramadan.
Eid prayers usually follows the final day of fasting in Ramadan, and it is celebrated for 3 consecutive days. Typically, it sees gatherings to break the fast. In Makurdi, Felicity Ndere, Global TV News.
The 6th Division Nigerian Army says its operatives has arrested 39 suspected oil thieves and destroyed 18 illegal refineries in the Niger Delta region. The acting Deputy Director, 6th Division Army Public Relations, Lieutenant Colonel Jonah Danjuma, disclosed this in a statement issued in Port Harcourt. The Army says 60,000 litres of stolen products were seized during the crackdown against oil theft and related crimes in the region. The special operation, which lasted for 6 days across 3 states of the region, was in collaboration with other security agencies. The federal government has announced the closure of the Independence Bridge, Marina Bound, starting from April 1st for essential maintenance and rehabilitation works. The Federal Controller of Works, Lagos, Olukorede Kesha, made this known in a statement. She explained that the bridge will remain closed until the end of May 2025. The closure, she says, will affect traffic traveling from Amadu Bello Way and Adiola Odeku towards Marina, Echo Bridge and Onikom by Zone 2. Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, has impounded a truck loaded with 70,000 litres of stolen crude oil in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. This is contained in a statement signed by the NSCDC National Public Relations Officer Afolabi Babawale in Abuja. Babawale explained that the Commandant General's Special Intelligence Squad had acted on orders to prevent incidents of pipeline vandalism, crude oil theft, and illegal dealings in petroleum products in the Niger Delta. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, has raised concerns over the increasing number of cerebrospinal meningitis cases across the country, saying its peak season is between November and May. The latest figures indicate a surge in infections with 807 suspected cases and 74 deaths reported across 22 states and the Federal Capital Territory as of March 26, 2025. The Center's Director General, Dr. Jide Idris, noted that the agency has activated emergency response measures to curb the outbreak, particularly in Kebbi, Katsina, and Sokoto, the most affected states. Following the killings and crisis in some parts of the state, Kogi State government has banned rallies and the use of security convoys in the state. The state government's position was made known in a statement signed by the Commissioner for Information and Communication, Kingsley Fanwo, after a meeting of the state government with traditional rulers and security operatives. Fanwo, in the statement, says the state government reviewed the security position of the state, necessitating the ban to forestall complete breakdown of law and order in some parts of the state. You're watching the live broadcast of the AM News. When the AM News returns, Nigeria-European Union move to strengthen 1.3 billion euro trade investments. Details coming shortly after the break. Please stay with us.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Many thanks for staying with us. If you've just joined us, this is Global Television bringing you live broadcast of the AM News. In business, Nigerian government and the European Union have commenced high-level discussions on ways to strengthen European Union-Nigeria economic cooperation. A statement issued by the Finance Ministry on X noted that the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, and the European Union Ambassador to Nigeria, Gautier Mignot, engaged in the discussion in Abuja, adding that Ambassador Mignot underscored the EU's position as Nigeria's largest trading partner and a major source of foreign direct investment. He proposed the creation of a formal trade and investment dialogue framework to unlock further opportunities through enhanced collaboration, particularly in infrastructure, green finance, and sustainable development. There has been anxiety in the downstream arm of the oil and gas sector as operators await the decision of the federal government on the Naira for crude deal between the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. The 6-month deal, which started in October 2024, officially ends. The deal's extension or complete halt is still being discussed by the parties involved. However, it is believed that the committee responsible for the negotiations is yet to resolve on the matter. As this lingers, the effect is now felt in the pump prices of refined petroleum products. The BBC says its real income has fallen by £1 billion a year compared to 2010, as it warned of unprecedented challenges to funding its content. Without intervention, it will be difficult to maintain the current ambition and volume of UK content. On the foreign scene, President Donald Trump says the tariffs he plans to impose in the coming days will apply to all countries and not only those with the largest trade imbalances with the United States. Trump has promised a Liberation Day on April 2nd when he is set to unveil reciprocal levies to address trade practices that his government deems unfair. Trump's upcoming tariff salvo had been expected to target the 15% of partners that have persistent trade imbalances with the United States. A Group Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, called a 30-15. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump says he's confident of reaching a deal on TikTok ahead of the April 5th deadline for its Chinese owner ByteDance to sell the popular short video app or Seeds banned in the United States. China had rebuffed a suggestion from Trump that he might offer to reduce tariffs to get Beijing's approval for the sale of TikTok to a non-Chinese firm. Trump says this month the United States was in talks with 4 groups interested in acquiring the platform, which has 170 million American users. Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger have imposed a 0.5% levy on imported goods to fund their new 3-state union after exiting the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. The military-led government announced that the levy agreed upon on Friday would take immediate effect. This move effectively ends free trade within West Africa under the regional bloc and underscores the growing rift between the Sahel states and regional powers like Nigeria and Ghana. In sports, manager Mikel Arteta says Bukayo Saka is ready to go for Arsenal after 3 months out with a hamstring injury. The England forward, who has scored 9 goals in all competitions for the club this season, has not featured since Arsenal's 5-0 win at Crystal Palace December 21st. He stated that all the careful things are already done. Real Madrid coach Carlo Ancelotti says superstar striker Kylian Mbappe is capable of becoming a legend at the club like all-time top goal scorer Cristiano Ronaldo. Mbappe, who idolized Ronaldo while growing up and after joining Madrid from Paris Saint-Germain last summer, has equaled the Portuguese striker's tally of 33 goals in his first season at the Santiago Bernabeu. Ancelotti also says his wish for Mbappe is that he is capable of achieving what Ronaldo did at Real Madrid. And that's it on Global TV AM News, and it came to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365, on Star Times channel 276, and free to air on Nigecomsat. You can also download the Global TV Nigeria mobile app for Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba, and Global Morning continues. Stay with us.
Do you know that Global Television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch Global Television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to Global Television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Time to put our discussions on the road this morning. Everyone, a while ago we gave you an insight into some of the political developments that we're now seeing in Nigeria River State being the epicenter, so to speak, of it all. But just by yesterday, news came through that the Kogi State government has also now announced that all sort of, if you like, convoy and rallies have been banned in the state for security reasons. And this, by some sort of coincidence, is coming at a time where the embattled senator representing Kogi Central Senatorial District, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, says she has a homecoming that will also help to amplify the essence and significance of Ramadan, especially for her people in her senatorial districts. There are those who have said that this move by the state government is not particularly about tackling insecurity, as it is focused on trying to ensure that this senator doesn't come through with whatever our intention is for her people. But then there's also the issue of the Treasury single account status of the Federal Capital Territory, which has now been radically altered, for want of better words, by President Bola Tinubu. Now, what that means is that the Treasury single account, which is more like a central repository, all right, for government revenues, will now have the FCT excluded. Before now, what we had in that regard was maybe universities, teaching hospitals, federal medical centers, and a few agencies of the federal government arguing that because of the peculiarity of their work, of their mandates, it was necessary for them to have some sort of CSA exempt status. But today we understand the FCT has been exempted, of course, courtesy of directive by the president. What exactly are the implications? What ramifications does this action hold for not just the FCT, but for Nigeria in general? I'm joined by a businessman, a staunch supporter of President Bola Tinubu, who is also a chieftain of the ruling All Progressives Congress, that is the APC, Chief Chibuna Obawike, to help us find sense in all of these conversations and developments. Thank you, Chief, for coming through.
You're welcome.
Let's begin with the first one, since it comes closer to home, the FCT. Before now, I'm sure you are aware that there were tertiary institutions in this country, there were teaching hospitals and several other entities of the government that said, look, we cannot be, as it were, bundled into these TSA arrangements because of the uniqueness of our kind of work and things like that. And there were those who at the time said that argument was totally valid. But today, the FCT has been removed. And the president says, I did that for one main reason, to expedite developments in the nation's capital. Is that valid enough?
Very, very valid. What made the reasons for excluding teaching hospitals and other critical service providers or providing agencies from the TSA is to expedite service delivery. FCT on its own as well is a special, component of the federation. It is a quasi-state. So, and service delivery in FCT supposed to be expedient. It's supposed not to have any clog in its wheel of progress. So, in the wisdom of Mr. President, he had to exclude FCT from TSA so that service delivery and governance delivery in the FCT will be expedited. It is a right decision, and it is in the right direction.
You see, that's the element of irony in it all, because you have states like Lagos, for example. You have a few other states that are, if you like, a bit more pivotal to national development, revenue generation, than a few other states. Is it also possible some of these states can wake up tomorrow and approach the president like the FCT minister had done and say, look, Your Excellency, can we also have an exception for XYZ reasons?
No. The states on their own are totally different. The states generate their revenues internally, and they make use of their revenues. They did not put it in the TSA pool, except some states that says every agency and ministry of government in their state, they should, channel their revenues
into the same stream,
into a TSA account of the state.
Of the state, okay.
Not the federation.
Not the federation.
States are independent. They run their affairs, on their own. Theirs is independent. But in the case of FCT, remind you, it is the National Assembly that makes laws for the FCT.
Right.
But states have their own state houses of assembly.
That's right.
So FCT being excluded from the TSA account is the right direction, decision in the right direction for expedited governance and service delivery. Mr. President was right in doing that.
How about, what do we say to people who now say that this could just be opening of a kind of Pandora's box, that this could be, they are concerned about abuse of this kind of thing, because the FCT is not always going to be under Mr. Wike. At some point, you're going to have a different minister coming, for example. Yeah. What do we say about addressing any possibility of abuse of this kind of exclusion?
Thank you very much. When you look at the capacity and personality of the person that is, the minister of FCT.
The current one?
No.
At any point?
At any point. Mm-hmm. Is he the person that can deliver? Is he one that can be trusted? Is he the person that is, how do I put it? A utilitarian person who is given to delivery of project. He is an accountable person. When you look at these variables, and the person, yes, is fit and proper, there wouldn't be any need to say I am withholding or revoking this order granted to the FCT to run its own affairs without channeling the pool of funds to the TS account. But if the reverse is the case, maybe there might be causes of situation that will call for review. I don't know what I get me.
Very well. Yeah. Of course, nothing is cast in stone, as they say.
Yes.
But let's also go back a little, back into history. You and I just acknowledged a while ago that there had been service delivery components or entities of the government that had been excluded from the same TSA over time. Can we confidently say today that those entities are now more effective today on account of that exclusion than they were before they were excluded?
You should answer that question. But in the case of FCT, we have seen, uncommon service delivery. We have seen uncommon project delivery. We have seen that the funds are plowed to the projects they are tied to. And we are seeing that the contracts that are awarded in FCT are delivered timeously and according to the contents of the contractual agreements that are signed, unlike what we saw before, what we witnessed before. I could recall some about 10 years ago, we couldn't see any project that was completed in FCT. But today, FCT is a construction site. So the person at the helm of affairs of FCT, the Honorable Minister, Dr. Nyesom Wike, is doing excellently well. And he should be commended for the good work he's doing in the FCT. And the funds, that are allocated for projects, he's judiciously using them. We should commend him.
I'm just curious, Chief, for a second. I don't know why you evaded the question about whether or not you can say those other agencies that were excluded are doing better today, because these are also public agencies. You have your eye and your ear out there too, following all of these developments as well. Because you talked about trust a while ago. You said we should look at these variables. Can this person, in the case of FCT, can the minister at any time be trusted? Are they inclined towards delivering projects that serve the overall interest of the people and so on and so forth? But in the past, even in recent history, was some people that had once been trusted, but they had this kind of leverage, for want of a better word, and they not only abused it, they bungled it altogether.
Yeah, it happens. We are humans. We are imperfect. Chances of abuses of power or privileges are bound to come up. Right. So it behooves the government to look at so person here, is he doing what he's supposed to do? If the person is not performing, the government has the power to hire and fire. They should relieve the person of his position and put someone that can actually deliver the goodies.
Incidentally, Mr. Wike is going to feature a lot in our conversation this morning.
No problem.
But at this point, everyone, we're switching to our second discussion, which focuses on the developments on the ground in Rivers State, South Nigeria. It's been a long time coming, but it will appear every other day Nigerians wake up. It's as if they are waking up to something new on that front. But what exactly are the issues today? Well, for one, we understand that there is a sole administrator in Rivers State now overseeing the affairs of the state. But it will appear again that there are more questions being asked than answers provided. So I'm going to put some of those questions in front of my guests this morning. So Chief, let's go to Rivers State now.
Okay.
There's a sole administrator in the States.
Yes.
Of course, you are not just only a senior member of the APC, you also are a Nigerian. Yeah. You have heard people talk about these issues. There are those who say that while the president is empowered by Section 305 of the Constitution to declare a state of emergency, giving prescribed conditions, he doesn't in any way have the power to remove the governor, remove the deputy governor, and the entire membership of the State House of Assembly. We don't want to go into all those details just yet. But let's look at the concerns that are now being raised about the management of the state, leadership of the state, overseeing of the state by a sole administrator. And then people have also raised the point that, hold on a second, how is it that every time a state of emergency is declared, a former military man is always brought? Is that not a way of saying that even civilian leadership, including under the leadership of President Tinubu, does not believe that civilians can run a state?
It is not so. Remember, you call it state of emergency. When there is an emergency and state of emergency is declared in the political governance, you look for the person that will carry out those emergency, that will bring about the resolving of those emergency issues. And in the case of Nigeria, due to the peculiarity of our situation, to me, military men perform better. Now, let's go to the case of Rivers as it is. We saw what gave room for the state of emergency to be declared. An ordinary civilian you put there might not be able to perform. He might not have the clout and the zeal and zest to perform as the case should be. But a military man that will have all the paraphernalia of the military will be able to, take care of those situations that gave rise to the emergency rule. That is why.
All right. I want us to look at it from the standpoint of finance, because people are very concerned about that. I'll give you an example real quick before we go into, just to establish a perspective. In Edo State, for example, when you had former Governor Obaseki, soon after he won his second term into office in 2020, people thought within a few weeks there would be cabinet up and running. But that didn't happen. And the surprise came from knowing that this was a second-term governor. So why would it take you that long? It took former President Muhammadu Buhari about 6 months to put a cabinet in place in 2015. And this was a governor who was spending about 11 months to put up a cabinet in place. And people said, look, this governor has beaten the records of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Again, like I said, the shock came from knowing that this was a second-term governor, was not a neophyte. However, the point being raised at that point was that the Constitution provides very clearly that until you have a cabinet in place in the case of a subnational, there's a threshold in terms of approval for projects and contracts and what have you. In the case of Rivers, you don't have a National Assembly in place. The monies that were not released to a democratically elected governor in the person of Siminalayi Fubara were immediately released to a sole administrator. Of course, all thanks to the courts. But now the concern is, what are the guardrails for this sole administrator in terms of what he spends and what he cannot spend? Let's talk about that.
Thank you very much. Like I was trying to explain, when there is an emergency, a state of emergency declared in a state, in a political setting, the normal operations of government in that state is suspended.
Including the Constitution?
It is called state of emergency.
So do we categorically suspend the Constitution?
No, we cannot suspend the Constitution. But the normal operations of government in a democratic setting is suspended. Now, it is an emergency rule. It is Mr. President that is, administering that state through a proxy. And that proxy is the sole administrator. Mr. President now freezes the power of governance and now delegates it to that proxy to deliver. So the normal, democratic, operations of governance in that state is suspended. The executive is suspended in terms of the governor and his commissioners and his cabinet. The legislature is suspended, especially given the peculiarity of the situation in Rivers State, when it was the executive and the legislature that were at a loggerhead. And then the governor, going by the Supreme Court ruling, said there was no governance in Rivers State. Because in a democracy, the legislature is the soul of democracy. Right. When you take away the legislature, there is no democracy in that particular state or subnational. And the Supreme Court came to say that there is no governance in Rivers State because the one leg, the democracy stands on a tripod. The legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Right. So when one leg is broken, that's the legislature, the soul of the democracy, there is no democracy in that state. And the Supreme Court went further to enumerate all the breaches of the Constitution that the governor committed. All the people shouting now did not see anything bad in when the governor was committing those breaches. Now, Mr. President, to save the situation prior to the Supreme Court judgment, called for a truce. They entered into an agreement. All the parties appended their signatures. The governor went home. Those people now that are shouting hue and cry went and told the governor not to obey and implement those agreements. Some of them that call themselves elders went to court to challenge the agreement that Mr. President did in good faith to broker peace. Remember, at times in one's life, you stoop to conquer. They went to challenge the agreement that the governor should not obey, and the governor refused to obey. He even came out to boast that there is no legislature. I don't recognize them. They are existing at my pleasure. I don't recognize them. And he went further to run the government as he wants. Supreme Court says no. You breach the Constitution. There was no governance in the state. And then people are saying, why will Mr. President declare state of emergency in Rivers State and remove the governor and the elected representatives? When the governor was committing breaches against the Constitution, where we are there? They cite instances of the case where there was state of emergency during the former President Jonathan's regime that the democratically elected governors were not removed. Are the situations the same? They are not.
What are the peculiar issues?
I'm coming. In the case of the Northwest and some part of Northeast, where President Jonathan declared state of emergency, there was no Supreme Court ruling declaring that there was no governance in those cases or in those areas. But in this case, the Supreme Court declared it. And then you want the chief, the officer of the country, the commander-in-chief and armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to watch the situation degenerate. And we saw some statements made by the governor. When they say a witch threatened and the child died at night, they will go for the witch. You say, call boys and say, don't worry, I'll tell you when it is time for you to act or strike. And a few days after, they began to strike. And Mr. President has a lot of information at his disposal that we do not know. What Mr. President did in Rivers State is appropriate, is within the law. Some notable lawyers have come to commend Mr. President. Others that are looking for briefs, who were even parties to the case at the Supreme Court, who failed to adumbrate their matter to adduce their cases in the Supreme Court, are coming to shout using the social media and whatever. It doesn't follow. Mr. President knows what is right for Nigerians. And in the case of Rivers State, he is in order. To me, he is in order in what he did.
Okay, well, Rivers State people will have a different issue altogether. But the case now has, the whole hula baloo around the Rivers State situation has expanded into even Bayelsa State. And you're wondering, yes, we know geographically these states are neighbors. With two different governors, as it were. But how is it that we're dealing with an issue in Rivers State and then Governor Diri is also perturbed about this development in his states? What is the dynamic playing out?
There is nothing to worry about in Bayelsa State. Governor Diri, to the best of my knowledge, is crying more than they believed. What has the issue in Rivers State got to do with Bayelsa? If it's not stoking ethnic tension, by the time until we stop, promoting, ethnic superiority in Nigeria, we stop, playing ethnic politics in Nigeria. That is when we'll have peace. Something happened in Rivers State. Some group of people say in Bayelsa, say they want to receive the Honorable Minister of FCT. You say it is a security threat. This, that. No, we don't play ethnicity with the national issues now. We are talking about governance. Allow governance to take place. What has happened in Rivers State? The federal government has taken care of it. Allow them the sole administrator to do his job. Allow people to go about their normal businesses within the law. Why trying to play ethnic politics and trying to stoke tensions where there is none? I take exception to what the governor of Bayelsa State is doing. It is a politics of bitterness that he is playing.
The sole administrator obviously is a military man, and people say, well, military people have never been known to develop a society, especially on that democratic system such as we have. Is there any chance, of course we can't see tomorrow, but given the trajectory we've seen in this country, the pattern of declaration of state of emergency, is there any possibility that Rivers State is going to emerge better on account of this initial 6 months of this emergency rule?
Well, we are watching the events as they unfold, and it is our hope that they will emerge better after the 6 months, and let's see how it goes. That's all I can say for now.
Have you been reflecting or maybe even responding to the issues around the money aspect of this conversation? There are those who say that, look, this is a ploy to plunder the states.
Now let me ask them, when the governor was spending money without appropriation, where were they? Those that are crying now, so money has been released to him. He needs money to run the government. Governors did not stop in Rivers State. Workers are there, they must earn their salaries, right? But because the former governor, who is now suspended, was not running a democratic government, that was why the court said money should not be released to him in a democracy. Now, the democracy in Rivers State, as exemplified by the executive, legislature, the judiciary, is not there for now. It is an emergency rule that is there. The administrator needs money to run the government. The people that are shouting hue and cry, we are those benefiting from what the breaches of the constitution the governor was committing. He was running the government without appropriation. No legislature, you carry budget to 3 persons to pass for you, the speaker, the deputy speaker, and the house leader, according to them. Are we living in Banana Republic? And they were applauding him. Now the court says, Supreme Court, not even the caucus of first instances.
Okay.
The Supreme Court says what you did is against the Constitution. There is no governance in Rivers State. I don't know whether you get me. How can you do away with the legislature and be running your show yourself? The money should not be released to you until you present the budget to the National House of Assembly for appropriation.
To present
that is show. That's Razzmatazz.
But he was locked out of that show. It was practically locked out of
paparazzi. I am a politician. I know. See, let me tell you something. There is a procedure. If you want, look at Mr. President. When he wants to make budget presentation to the National Assembly, he writes them that, subject to your convenience, I would want to come to make budget presentation on so and so date. The National Assembly will write back to Mr. President, telling him whether that date he has chosen or he proposed is convenient or not. If it is convenient, tell him it is so and so day that will be convenient for us to wait and receive you and the budget. That is how it goes. You don't just say you sent a letter today and you drove tomorrow to go. No. Have they written back to you? That is a procedure. All the people coming to do, you carry the press so that they will see you are doing. That is blackmail, political blackmail, to curry the favor and the emotion of people. It doesn't work in partisan politics that we play. There must be correspondence. You write me, I respond to you, and we agree on a date. Then you come on that date. If such has happened and he goes and they did not receive him, then we can crucify the legislator, the state members of the State House of Assembly. But that did not happen.
You have made continual reference to the Supreme Court judgment that said, well, there was no governance in Rivers State.
Yeah.
But the Constitution, of course, I understand you are not a lawyer, but the Constitution is the ground norm.
Yeah.
The Constitution does not in any way provide for the president to remove a democratically elected.
When they go, there is no governance in the state. What is the essence of your election? When the Supreme Court of the land says there is no governance, the Mr. President cannot wait for that illegality to continue.
But was that the only option? I mean, removing the governor, the deputy governor, and
there was crisis that was brewing, and that crisis, if left unchecked, by what the action Mr. President took, would have snowballed into an unimaginable, catastrophe. And Mr. President had to move in to checkmate it. The governor give way. The legislature give way. And you cannot say that somebody that is an agent provocateur should benefit from, the state of emergency. No, you should leave him. He can't be there because they won't causing the problem. So the governor give way. The legislature give way. Let there be an administrator. I have taken over the power to run the state through this man that I have appointed for the period of 6 months. So let Mr. President do what he knows how best to do to bring, calm the situation down. And remember, as it is now, if people should allow things without, their vicious propaganda and, inciting statements and whatever, under normal circumstances, this situation, what Mr. President did is to allow for there to be a rapprochement. For the governor, the areas the Supreme Court has outlined, and areas he has made mistake because I believe he must have realized that he has been misled by those that we are advising him.
That's the governor.
Yes, to make way to look for how to make peace, with members of the State House of Assembly, so that there will be peace in the state, and so that by the time the end of the 6 months, if he is called back, the will of governance in the state will continue to roll without hindrance. But they are making inciting statements. Steam is advising him, and he's listening to them, worsening the situation. Things will not work that way.
It's 6 months, not too long for it to. I mean, one would have thought within a couple of weeks, maybe 2-3 months, whatever it is you want to do to calm the situation, stabilize the state as it were, restore order and, of course, governance to the state would have been accomplished. Then you get the governor, the House of Assembly back, and all of that. Why do we need an entire 6-month period?
To rebuild is difficult. It takes time to rebuild, but it takes just a second to destroy. So rebuilding process takes a longer time. That is why. 6 months might not even be enough to me. Might not be.
So maybe that's the reason he says initial 6 months.
Thank you very much. Might not even be enough. If the situation does not improve at the end of the 6 months, the Mr. President is at liberty to propose to the National Assembly that he will extend the emergency rule.
Again, that probably supports the permutation in some places that this is, well, my people are insinuating that this is about 2027 for the president.
No, it is
that
not.
The president has taken over the state.
It is not.
In the interest of, his own interest going into 2027.
Mr. President did not cause the problem ab initio.
But is he not taking advantage of it?
He's not taking advantage of it. He wants peace in that state. Ab initio, Mr. President did not cause the problem. This is barely 2 years of the government, the elected government in Rivers State. Why this kind of crisis? And remember, all of them, they are members of the same political family. So why this problem that you cannot resolve? The members of the House of Assembly and the governor are members of the same political family. So why can't you resolve it? I mean, let's ask ourselves the question. Those that you go on the media and begin to postulate and the profile, incite people and talk anything that they like because they are looking for brief, if they are lawyers, and others because they hate someone that they always mention his name because of his political clout. It's not the way to go.
Is the NBA, the Nigerian Bar Association, also speaking against this declaration of emergency because they're looking for brief as well?
Let me tell you something. NBA is made up of individuals.
Right.
Thank you very much. Individual lawyers. And individual lawyers understand the law individually, not as a group. I have had the former president of the NBA come to talk about this matter and say that Mr. President was in order.
But the incumbent president hasn't said that.
Thank you very, very much. A former president, not one of the senior lawyers we have in this country, very sound, says the Mr. President is in order. There's another senior lawyer, well respected in the legal profession in Nigeria, says Mr. President is in order.
But the numbers, there are many of them. The numbers in terms of the lawyers who
forget
support
about the numbers
or against.
See, let me tell you something. Yes. It is not always the majority that says the thing as it should be. Not even when it comes in the case of law, it is not the majority position that is the position of the law. It is not. That's why in some cases, like in the case of Rivers State, it was the minority judgment of the Court of Appeal judge that was upheld at the Supreme Court. So it doesn't follow whether it is the majority that are talking or whatever. No. What is the position of the law? What is the circumstances that gave rise to this situation? What should have been done in this situation to save Nigeria and save the state and the citizens of the state? What should be done should have been done by Mr. President so that the wheel of governance in the state will continue to run unhindered. Those are the questions we should ask, not for pecuniary considerations.
Incidentally, it will appear you're saying that we should fly with Minority Report in this case. But maybe that's...
No, it's not with Minority. What I'm saying is that the position of the law in this case, people will go and put one place. I was listening to one lawyer the other day. That one now was started and saying that Section 305 is inferior to other sections of the Constitution. There is no section in the Constitution that is inferior to each other. Imagine a lawyer saying such a thing. So what do you make of that lawyer? What do you make of a lawyer that says the particular section of the Constitution is inferior to the other? A section that gave power to Mr. President to declare an emergency rule, you say it is inferior to other sections, and you call yourself a lawyer.
Maybe we'll refer him to the legal, the legal practitioners disciplinary committee, the LPDC. But that's for another day. But again, a very ranking member of your party, former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Chibike-Amechi, who also had been a minister just a few years ago, now says that Nigerians and indeed the political class and political parties and their leaders must be weary. That from the way this is going, President Bola Tinubu, according to him, by his own assessment, can wake up one morning and remove a governor who doesn't serve his interests. That's a member of your party, for example.
Let me tell you something. His Excellency, former Governor Chibike-Amechi, is still suffering the loss syndrome. And he's speaking from the suffering of the loss syndrome. Immediately he lost the presidential primaries of our party. He became anti-government. He began to attack our president. Watch all his statements from the time he lost the primaries to the time of the election. He worked against Mr. President's election. And Mr. President, by the grace of God, won the election. He has never seen any good in all that Mr. President does. So his statement should not be taken serious. He's talking from, the loss of the presidential ticket. The syndrome is still worrying him.
But all of this doesn't look good on your party. I mean, the image, yes, people say politicians really don't care about image, they care about winning elections. But what does this say about the standing of your party, even though it's the ruling party at the national level and has more governors in this country today?
My party is doing fine, fantastically well in terms of governance delivery. Yes, there are problems. And the problem was not started by my party. My party is doing everything possible to get the problem solved through the Mr. President, who is doing fantastically well. In partisan politics that we play in Nigeria, it is like barracks. Soldier go, soldier come, barrack remain. People will go out of the party. People will work against the party. Other people will come into the party to strengthen the party. That is how it is. The image of my party is fantastically okay. There is no problem with the image of my party. My party is doing fine.
I think maybe in passing, you were just probably, you were inadvertently referring to Senator Shehu Sani in Kaduna State, who has now returned to your party. And
no, I'm not referring to a particular individual.
And he wants to run for a Senate seat again in 2027.
I don't know about that.
But they lost his title in 2027 right now. We're taking a quick break right now, everyone. When we return, we'll talk a little more about Rivers State and all of the issues happening down there. And then we'll also turn our attention for a few minutes to Kogi and what all of this means for the polity in this country. Do stay with us.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
All right, let's just continue our conversation about Rivers State, and then we'll veer off briefly to also look at what's happening in Kogi right now. I mean, still talking about Rivers State, there are people who argue, even within both the APC and the PDP, that President Bola Tinubu is, whether he realizes it or not, making Nyesom Wike a hound dog that might also come to haunt him sometime in the future. Is that your sentiment?
It can never be my sentiment. Let me tell you something about partisan politics and partisan political power that we play in Nigeria. Mr. President, my president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a seasoned politician. And every politician needs a politician that has clout, that has electoral value, that has street credibility, and a politician that can deliver. His Excellency Dr. Nyesom Wike is a politician that has political value. He's a politician that has clout. He's a politician that has street credibility and can deliver results. So it is not out of place that His Excellency Nyesom Wike and Mr. President are working together. Remember, towards the build-up to the 2023 election, His Excellency Nyesom Wike became a maker, not his house, he became a maker of a sort. Every major contender, of the presidential ticket was going to him to seek his support. If he has nothing to offer, they will not be going to him to ask for his support. Remember too that in some states where my party has governors, they could not give my president 25% vote. We could not win in those states. But His Excellency Nyesom Wike delivered the Rivers State for Mr. President, a PDP state. I don't know whether you understand. So those that are talking against him, one, comes at these categories of people. People who hate his political guts. People who are envious that he did not support their candidate. These are the people that you see talk against them. And they are the vocal few, but they have access to the media. What he did as a governor in his state, even former President Buhari, the president of APC government, gave him an award as Mr. Project. Nobody will shy away or take it away from his performance as a governor in his state. Mr. President then gave him an award. And as FCT minister, we are seeing what he's doing is quite axiomatic. Even the blind sees what he's doing in FCT. They are envious of his political clout, his political value, and the street credibility he has. He delivers when given an assignment. That is why they're envious of him. They are talking bad of him.
But are we going to also sit here and pretend that there is no fire in this? Because they say for every smoke there's fire, right? That there's no smoke without fire, they say. The genesis of all of this, people will argue, which I'm also sure you're privy to, at least to a large extent, is the feud that started between Wike and Governor Fubara, for example. How is it that nobody's having the conversation as to what exactly brought up that controversy, that tussle, that now led to all of this state of emergency being declared in the states and the hula baloo around this development?
Thank you. That's the question you should ask those people. What brought about this problem between Governor Fubara and His Excellency Nyesom Wike? Has Governor Fubara come out to say, this is the problem, this is the problem? No. Let me take you back to what happened in Anambra in 2003, when the sitting governor was kidnapped and under duress was asked to resign.
Chris Ngige.
Thank you very much. When that incident, happened, Chris Ngige came out to voice out, look at what is happening, look at what they did. Yes, I signed this agreement, I did this, I did that, at so place and whatever. People saw what the problem was. In this case, what is preventing Governor Fubara to tell the Nigerians what the problem is instead of propaganda? He has not. So why would he always say, it is weak, it is weak, it is weak? And people who enlisted Wike support during the election and he did not support them are angry that he made them to lose the election. They are now fanning the embers of catastrophe, embers of commotion, embers of conflagration, using the media. Why? What did His Excellency Nyesom Wike do? Let Governor Fubara come and tell us, look at what happened. This is the genesis of the problem, so that we know where to get to solve it. Mr. President, in his wisdom, has called for a truce. They entered into an agreement. These people that are not saying, Mr. President, come and see where you will lend your support to resolve this problem. We are there. After signing the agreement, they were the ones that told the Governor Fubara not to obey the agreement, not implement the agreement. Even they went to court to challenge the agreement. So why are you calling Mr. President now? Mr. President said the day Pandef went to visit, that he foresaw this thing happening. That was why he mediated. And they had an agreement. It was the same elders, some of them that are here, that went to repudiate the agreement, breach the agreement, tell the governor not to obey the agreement, not implement it. And look at where it has landed. They are now crying. Why are you crying? You caused the problem. And mind you, the people that Governor Fubara has gone to make friends with, who are his advisors, were those that oppose his emergence as a governor. How can you make your enemy your advisor?
But again, you politicians say that there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies.
Thank you very much, but you should know that when there is a betrayal, even when the person comes back to you, there is a way you deal with that person. Somebody that opposed you viciously, opposed you, did everything to truncate your candidacy. Now is your very best friend, now your advisor. You should be circumspect in that, in taking his advice.
But it's not so curious, Chief, that Wike himself too, on the other hand, because my principal would say, if one person is not talking, the other one is talking. If Fubara is not talking, for example, I mean, this is just me speculating and playing the devil's advocate, because he feels he's an executive governor of a state and he doesn't want to rock the boat. Wike is probably in a much better situation to speak about these things. Every time journalists would ask him about what exactly the basis of the feud was, all he told them was he doesn't like ungrateful people. He doesn't like ungrateful people. So the question should be, what exactly has Governor Fubara not been grateful for to Mr. Wike?
Well, I have not heard him repeatedly say he hates ungrateful people. Ungrateful, he has throughout his 8 years as governor. I mean, His Excellency Dr. Ezemoye Sonwike. Even while as governor, he tells you he hates ungrateful people. But in the case of Fubara, he has always maintained that let the rule of law. He wants, the rule of law to take its place. Let everything be done according to the rule of law. I have heard him several times say that. Let everything be done according to the rule of law. You cannot burn down the State House of Assembly, demolish it, chase them away, and be dealing with 3 members of the House of Assembly and say you are obeying rule of law. That was the genesis of the problem. If he had wanted to rebuild that place, he had over a year to rebuild the place he demolished. He did not. What are we talking about? All the people that are now shouting, when he was doing all those things, it was good in their eyes. He was doing fine because he was fighting their, in quote, their enemy. Now they go say, what you did is anomalous. It's against the law. You breach the Constitution. There is no governance in Rivers State. Let them tell me, in any of the state that state of emergency was declared previously, whether there was any pronouncement of the Supreme Court that there was no governance in those states. So if there was, will Mr. President fold his arms and watch things degenerate into a level that is uncontrollable? None. So why would they, Wike on his own says, let there be rule of law. Let rule of law be obeyed. Governance should be carried out according to the rule of law. And the rule of law in a democracy is that there must be a legislature, there must be a judiciary, there must be an executive. If you are doing the way with any arm of these 3 arms of government, there is no rule of law.
Again, well, Wike has always said that he can't watch someone else take away his structures, apparently in reference to Governor Fubara and all of that. But let's not go into all that, even though we know that there are people, even within your party, who believe that
Governor Fubara has no capacity to take away His Excellency.
Even as a sitting governor.
He has no capacity to do that. See, I told you that Wike is a politician that has political value. He has political clout, and he has street credibility. He has grassroots support. Since the advent of this Fourth Republic, from 1999 to 2023, it has been PDP winning Rivers State. No other party has won. Former Governor Chibika Amechi, even as a sitting governor of Rivers State in APC, could not win Rivers State for APC. But Wike, a sitting governor of PDP, won Rivers State for APC. What are we talking about? Remember, Governor Fubara is a political neophyte. He has not been a politician. It was Governor Wike that brought him into the political race. So he needs time to learn the ropes, to learn the game of politics. He cannot take away Governor Wike's political structures. It's not possible. All the politicians we value in Rivers State and that have clout are with Wike. And they command, a grassroots support. And the grassroots support is, organic. It is not rented crowd. All the politicians in Rivers State that has clout and value are with His Excellency Wike. And they have massive clout.
But again, let's just use this medium to quickly look at a different issue altogether. The case of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan seems to be moving away now from the Senate to Kogi State. It's almost like the issue of it's like the whole problem is coming closer to home right now. The lady had announced just a few days ago that she'll be coming home, and they said it's homecoming. She wants to meet with her people, interact with them, and share Salah package, as it were, and all of that. But just yesterday, the government officially came out with a release to say, look, we are banning all of these rallies and sirens and motorcades. All of these convoy, what have you, and so on and so forth. Of course, the government predicates this on security issues, want to tackle insecurity, blah, 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 blah. But the question is, people have asked, why is this coming at a time when this senator is coming back home? And then she's also facing a recall back at home from our senatorial district, and so on and so forth. You are a politician. What exactly is playing out here?
The governor of Kogi State, His Excellency Usman Ododo, has access to security report that I and you do not have access to.
Right.
And if the security report he has access to indicates that there's going to be problem, so place. I read there are places they mentioned. So the access he has to the security report indicates that there's going to be problems in so places. And the problems will snowball into an unimaginable proportion. It behoves him as the chief security officer of the state to take proactive actions to nip the problem in the bud. So what he has done to me is to nip the problem in the bud based on the security report at his disposal.
Again, that raises the question of the battle that has started. I mean, I use battle advisedly here, between former governor, the immediate past governor, Yahaya Bello, and Senator Akpoti Uduaghan a few years ago. Of course, Governor Ododo is the political son, if you like, godson of Yahaya Bello. All right. There are those who believe that he's taking that fight from where his godfather left off. And of course, given the battle that Senator Akpoti Uduaghan is now engaged in or is now grappling with, it's just going to be, I mean, the whole intention is to complicate this situation for her. I mean, does this not look more like, I mean, more than a coincidence for you?
It does not. People are free, they are at liberty to hold whatever opinion they want to hold. But the governor, being the chief security officer of the state, has security reports at his disposal. And if it indicates there's going to be problems in some places, it behoves him to take proactive action to stop that thing from happening. And if there are people that might be caught in the web of those action, so be it, for there to be peace and progress in the state. No governor will want his state to go up in flames. No sincere governor who means well for the state will want the state to go up in flames. So anybody conjecturing that that is his own, he's at liberty to hold such opinion. But the governor has come out to say, this is why I am doing this. So I hold the governor, to his word.
Okay, let's begin to tie it up now. Incidentally, efforts are already in top gear, as they say, to recall Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan. We understand that all of the petitions, in their hundreds of thousands, have been submitted to INEC. INEC has now said that there's a likelihood that in the next 90 days it will carry out a referendum. We understand this process is rigorous, again, based on constitutional provisions. And then there are those, I mean, political analysts who say that it's more expensive to elect a senator or a member of House of Representatives than to recall them. Are we putting our money where our mouth is?
It is the civic responsibility of the electorates of his, senatorial zone to, call for his recall. They are exercising their right, their freedom. So if in their, thoughts and intentions, and they feel she's not representing them well, and they decide that they want her recalled, it is their right. Whatever it caused them to do, to carry out the project, is their own problem. It is not my problem. They were the ones that elected her ab initio. They also have the right to recall her as well.
Does this look like a new trend dawning in Nigeria where recall is becoming a popular kind of phenomenon? For example, there's a senator too from Edo State, Barrister Neda Imaswe, who happens to be the chairman of the now very controversial Committee on Ethics and Privileges, being said to be recalled, all right, by his own constituents from Edo South Senatorial Districts. Are we going to, from what you see right now, see pockets of these recall efforts?
There is laid down procedures and rules, for embarking on such a project.
Right.
So if in their wisdom as well they feel he has not represented them well and they want to recall him, it is their right. They should exercise their right. That is how I see it.
All right. I think this recall conversation is long drawn out, but we've just started. Again, like my guest just said, the Constitution is very clear as to the conditions or the circumstances under which recall exercise can be carried out and what the requirements are. In the case of Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan, INEC says it has commenced the whole process. It has notified the National Assembly. Of course, the senator herself has been notified, and it says that in the next 90 days, there's the likelihood that it will commence a referendum. Let's see how that will turn out. But this appears like a whole new vista in our political experience in this country. I would like to say a big thank you to my guest this morning, Chief Chibuna Ubawike, for taking our time.
Thank you so much.
To come on the program. For the records, Chief Ubawike is a stalwart of the APC, as well as a staunch, I dare to say, unrepentant supporter of President Bola Tinubu. We'll take a quick break, everyone. When we return, Queen Agaba and I will be back here to bring you the second lap of this program.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews and latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
You know, one of the things I didn't mention to my guest a while ago, I mean, just to beat some opinions from him, is that the Transition Monitoring Group, that is the TMG, I should say, and the civil society organizations in Rivers State are now threatening to take, well, most times politicians will say drag the sole administrator in Rivers State to court over the finances of the state. They say they're not so sure if constitutional guardrails and even, well, those provisions made by extant laws will be followed in terms of how he spends the state funds. In cases like this, it's not a surprise that everybody is concerned about where the money is going to. It's natural. It's the common patrimony of the good people of the great states of Rivers. Queen Agaba and I are back to the show. You know, we can't stop talking about the human angle element in the way and manner in which public officers, whether they are appointed or elected, manage public funds, which has become a very serious concern in the case of Rivers now, because they are saying that, yes, we know the Supreme Court's judgment was what became the basis for releasing Rivers State funds to the sole administrator, even though you didn't do that with the governor that was removed from office and all of that. They are now saying, while we may not be able to do anything about whether or not the sole administrator spends the state's money, but we are very concerned and we have to have a say in how these monies are spent, because there are already provisions, there are already guidelines for how state funds should be spent.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not even forget about the conversations around the fact that this, sole administrator of Rivers State now is, the speculations, and, some groups have come out to say he's just there to counter, the suspended governor Fubara, and that, everything he's doing is working or negating, Fubara's end, working against Fubara and his team, basically. But we want to just see clarity in how these things are effected, the things that are going to be implemented pending, when all of this drama is over. And we also hope to see transparency, because we were just talking a while back that why we say the name as sole administrator, he's basically going to be performing functions of a governor, in the state, pending when this dispute or whatever it is settled. So we expect to see transparency, and let's not forget the people of Rivers State, that are going to be at the core of this. What should matter now is the people of Rivers State, their well-being, their welfare, their business, all that concerns their projects and all of that, their safety, their concerns, security particularly.
It's quite an interesting thing. Again, you and I this morning at the top of the show, we're talking about leadership by example, all right, leading from the front and all of that. There was a time, not too long ago, Kenya president, let's take it beyond the shores of Nigeria for a minute, was saying that when public officers, politically exposed people, donate to religious entities, churches, mosques, and what have you, that it feels corruption. But just recently, he announced a donation of $150,000 to a church. Now, that has sparked political kind of unrest in Kenya. People are now saying that, one, you condemned this not too long ago. Today, you are doing it. And the question is, would you have done the same for a mosque or for some other religious group, and things like that? I'm just saying that when you narrow it down, when you domesticate it in our own case, for example, you realize that what is missing is that exemplary leadership factor, which we really have never been able to establish in this country. Some analysts will tell you on and off television that in Nigeria, for example, governors are so powerful that they see themselves as demigods. In fact, they feel once you become the governor of a state, you are above the law. You can decide to do, and as my mom would say, undo, and that kind of thing. But we must realize that it goes beyond just mouthing the term rule of law. We must exemplify the rule of law. And in this regard, people are quick to remember late former president, God rest his soul, talking about Musa Yar'Adua, how that this was a president that got into office and almost immediately even raised concerns about the process that produced his presidency. And he said, look, that process was marred with several irregularities, and that gave rise to the immediate efforts to start reforming the electoral process, part of which were the efforts that led to where we are today, gave rise to issues around the Electoral Act 2022 that was signed into law by former President Muhammadu Buhari and things like that. We're taking a quick break again, everyone. When we return, we will talk to you about a few more recent developments across our country, and then that's how we'll draw the curtains on the show today.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
Well, thank you everyone for staying with us. We want to talk about the legislature briefly, whether it's the State House of Assembly or the National Assembly, even though we know at the local level, the council level, that's a different ball game altogether. But let's talk about the State House of Assembly and the National Assembly. We have always been told, even when you teach elementary government in school, that the legislature is the checker, so to say. I mean, brings checks and balances to the executive. It helps to curtail the excesses, the overreach, as it were, tendencies of the executive. In other words, one reason the executive at any level of governance or government would refrain itself from being extreme with its actions, decisions, and policy direction, from quote-unquote misbehaving, is that you have the legislature in place to check the executive. But in this day and age, you keep hearing rubber stamp legislature, whether it's in the state or at the national level. You keep hearing that the National Assembly or the State House of Assembly is tied to the apron strings of the president or the apron strings of the governors. That's, by way of being humorous, tends to suggest that these governors and the presidents come with apron to the office. So the legislature is just waiting to get tied to those strings.
Absolutely. I can't say for a fact that we have a legislature or a legislative arm of government and judiciary that is free of the influence of, politics
The
at this
executive,
point.
right?
Yeah, the executive. Because we're tired of, we see these things. We see some of the messages that are being passed. It's obvious. It tells that, you know, one way or the other, one form or the other, that, you know, some things are at stake, some persons are being tied, like you put it, you know, those arms are being tied, you know, as you say. We expect, but what do we say about, you know, the processes where the executive gets to decide, you know, who our legislators are, and then who our judges are as well, you know, the judicial, basically every one person in, you know, these arms of government. And independence, we don't see that independence. We cannot say for a fact that the judiciary is independent of, you know, the influence of the executive arm of government or the legislative arm of government.
Yeah.
Over time, we have worried, Nigerians basically have worried about some of the decisions, some of the judgments from the judiciary, and it has posed a lot of question marks. It has left us with a lot of question marks. To think that the judiciary is being politicized. Well, maybe not, but we expect unbiased and uninfluenced decisions from these arms of government.
Interesting. But let's take a look at one more development outside of our shores. This is in the U.S. You know, President Donald Trump had done his first term between 2017 and 2021. Of course, he lost to former President Joe Biden. For the next 4 years, he was ranting and criticizing, planning and strategizing and re-strategizing to come back. And of course, he did come back. All right, so he just got handed another 4-year term last January. But the man is now saying that he's not joking about running for a third term. And then for those who are, I mean, who have the faintest idea what the American Constitution says, you're wondering how on earth he plans to do that. It's like President Bola Tinubu saying he's not joking about running for a third term when you know what our Constitution says about these basics, right? And it makes you laugh. But the man says he's not laughing about this. You know, he had hinted, and journalists had even had to prod him directly about this at some point to say, Mr. President, are you frankly going to run for president for a third term? And he says, well, it's not impossible. And at another time, he says he's not ruling it out. But now he has categorically, emphatically, unambiguously said that he would run for president for a third term. I'm not so sure if by then you would have backed, U.S. citizenship, but come on, think about that for a second.
Well, I don't think I'm planning to back U.S. citizenship anytime soon. But looking at the stringent policies that Trump is even putting in place this time around, it's going to be a hard task to be able to back.
Right.
No, not necessarily for him. Well, for him too, but, you know, looking at the immigration policies from the U.S. and all of that, but how he's going to do it, saying that it's not impossible, it sounds a bit authoritative, more like a dictator kind of statement, you know, where, you know, you cannot run beyond second term.
That's right.
And you are deciding that you're going to be able to run for a third term. But we look forward to, we've always known Trump to be, you know, very strong-willed, strong-headed, and, you know, but how is it possible? I'm also thinking, are there going to be policy changes before the end of his second tenure? Is it going to influence, you know, the system? How is that going to happen, knowing that you're only giving 2 tenures and you are insisting that you're going to run for president for a third time? Well, we look forward to how, you know, that is going to pan out, that is the outcomes of these, his decisions. And we just hope that, you know, he doesn't create, or he doesn't stir disputes, you know, of some sort among U.S. citizens.
Well, we hope so. But, you know, there's a part of American political process alike. I mean, all of the electioneering and all that. where you find poll after poll giving you insight into the direction of an election or what the rating of a particular president or a governor is per time, which I strongly believe that we should adopt in Nigeria as well, so that people begin to bring their hearts and their most times. Is the reason somebody would rather vote Queen Agaba because she's from their village, because she speaks the same language as they do. Whereas you're supposed to be looking at her competence, her track record, her capacity to deliver, her love for her people, you know, how grounded she is in leadership, in politics, in economy, in overall administration and things like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break soon, but we understand that Nigeria's foreign reserves have again dropped by $2.55 billion in the first quarter of 2025. We hope with all the efforts being made by the Ministry of Finance, by the Central Bank of Nigeria, and all other relevant agencies and entities of government will be able to jack it back up during the second and subsequent quarters of 2025. Incidentally, the second quarter just got underway today. Governor Monday Okpebholo, most people would love to call him Senator Monday Okpebholo, the governor of Edo State, has visited his Kano State counterpart to not only condole with him on account of the 16 persons that were killed in Edo State by way of mob action a few days ago. He has also gone to assure him, like he had said time and again, that justice will be done and that all of those who are found culpable in this regard will be brought to book. And now the governor of Kano State says, look, we want those people, once identified, all right, and investigated, to be publicly paraded as well. But in all, justice has to be done in the eye of the law, and that is what ultimately should happen. We'll take another quick break. When we return, it will be the last segment of the program.
Do you know that global television can be watched in Nigeria and all over the world?
Download the Global TV Nigerian mobile app for Android and iOS devices to watch global television real-time from around the world. What are you waiting for?
Start downloading and stay connected to global television.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
A Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper reviews, latest news with experts on key global issues,
and at the same time keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Well, some reports are now saying that Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan will go ahead with her, well, rally and all of the outings she has planned for Kogi Central Senatorial District. That's, in the face of the ban by the state government. Again, like I was talking to my guest about a while ago, the battle has now expanded from the Senate floor to Kogi State, where she already had a battle that started a few years ago under former Governor Yahaya Bello. But again, in all of this, who is suffering? Because as of today, the good people of that senatorial district do not have a senator at the National Assembly. Now, let's also be clear. This suspension, we understand, is for 6 months. Now, if that was to go full circle, the question is what happens to what they should have been receiving as representation for that entire period? That's for the people. Then for the senator herself, what happens to her political career? These are all issues. Meanwhile, a recall process is already underway. INEC says now that there's a chance there will be a referendum within 90 days. That's in another 3 months. If there's anything to go by, it means from now till July, maybe end of June, July, there will be a referendum. So this process is not only rigorous, it is time demanding.
Yeah, absolutely. It's time consuming. And like you rightly said, what happens to the people of, that senator?
That she was elected to represent.
That she was elected to represent. And we see what Senator Natasha, I see, and I'm sure that people see as well. Prior to this time, I've always said it, that I didn't know this much about that Kogi Central, that senatorial district, what has panned out over time. But with Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan representing that senatorial district, I saw, I've been able to see some of her achievements in that regard. Schools, centers, healthcare facilities, even arms that have been given to less privileged, empowerment and all of that. And I am sure that the people of that district can testify because we see these things, and we see how she moved to ensure that these people have good roads, to an extent, accessible drinking water and all of that. All of this I can say because I see how well, that senatorial district was represented. But now that, and these same people have called for her recall, the same people of that senatorial district have called for her recall as, for misrepresentation and all of that, and all of that. So I'm beginning to wonder, it's more like it's, they're conflicting views right here. But what happens to that senatorial district if, this continues to linger? That's a big question. What happens to the people? What happens to their representation? What happens to, allocations for these people?
Right. Well, that's a big question that needs to be answered one way or another. But what we also do understand is that while we see a lot of concerns and doubts about the authenticity or otherwise of those petitions, the law, we know for a fact, provides that INEC is under obligation to verify to establish the veracity of those petitions, because you don't just want to bring up random doctored petitions and say we want Queen Agaba recalled. No, we've got to be sure, in fact, double sure, if these petitions were actually signed by these people. INEC will do that. INEC will carry that process. And that's why, again, we said a while ago that this is a time-demanding process. So it's not just going to happen at the snap of fingers. So we wait and see what INEC does in that regard, and then also see how the referendum that we now hear will likely happen in the next 90 days will take place. In the meantime, the Force Public Relations, the Police Public Relations Officer of the FCT Police Command, Josephine Ade, is now advising women about love. She says to them that they should come to love. They should approach love with wisdom, putting in perspective, making a priority of their mental well-being and their financial well-being. Because she says that no title, no relationship status is worth the life or the dignity of a woman. And I hope that women, especially young single ladies, will not only take this to heart, but will make it a guiding principle for themselves.
Interesting, coming from the police public relations officer of the FCT. When you said love, I'm not ready to it. Maybe, okay, are we still love in what sense? So
but now the perspective is clear.
It's a bit clear, yeah.
Right.
yes, no relationship is worth your life, your dignity, and love yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
Women should learn to prioritize themselves
because
most of the I now get it that most of the criminal activities we see happen is sometimes from supposed lovers.
Right.
A young girl who was giving money to school for her project and all of that. I think we saw it in the news. Came up to she was apprehended by the police, and all of this money. Okay. I remember the story now. This young lady was faked her kidnap alongside her boyfriend, and collected ransom from her struggling mother, and they were tracked and later apprehended. And it was obvious that she did it for love's sake, alongside with her boyfriend.
For love's sake.
But the boyfriend was getting a larger chunk of the money that her struggling mother, suffered to raise for love's sake. And so I get the point now. When we love, let us love logically. Let us also love with our head. While we love with our hearts, let's love with our head. Ensure that it's not a love is not selfish. Love is not criminal. It's not a love that will put you in problems. It's not a love that will, make you think, outside of rationality, basically. So you want to ensure that you're not loving into criminality. You're loving right, and you're loving yourself, and you're not loving yourself onto disgrace or, what is not dignifying. You're loving yourself onto dignity. Very important. So,
well, we'll leave you with love this Tuesday morning, everyone. Thank you for sharing your morning with us here on the program. I'm Uyag Mofi. We're saying a big thank you to you for watching.
And I'm Queen Akaba. Have an amazing day ahead. Until next time.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled with ASU strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.